After meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart, President Ramaphosa urged the international community to do everything within its means to enable meaningful dialogue between the warring parties while refraining from actions that fuel the conflict.
It is these principles that inform South Africa's participation in the African Peace Initiative, which seeks a peaceful resolution of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In this conflict, as in all conflicts, we have insisted that the UN Charter's principle of respect for the territorial integrity of every country should be upheld. Our participation in the African Peace Initiative, supported by 7 countries from the African continent, is informed by a desire to see an end to the suffering of those most directly affected by the conflict and the millions on our own continent and across the world who, as a result of the conflict, are now vulnerable to worsening hunger and deprivation.
President Ramaphosa reflected on some progress that he believes supports the notion of confidence-building measures towards ending the war in Ukraine, including the return of children who were removed from the country and prisoner swaps between Russia and Ukraine, but expressed a view that this needed to be happening at a faster pace. On issues of instability, he also lamented the unconstitutional changes of government in Africa and urged the global community to work alongside the African Union to support peace efforts across the continent. And in warning that inequality, poverty and unemployment were deepening around the world, he pledged support for efforts to tackle debt distress and for financing to better bolster SDG implementation, including a just transition in relation to climate change.
We must summon the necessary will and resolve to regain the momentum towards the achievement of the 2030 agenda. This means that we must address the fundamental developmental challenges that have long characterized as well our unequal world. To address the developmental challenges that face many people in the world, we are required to focus on targeted investment, on technology transfer, capacity building support, especially in key areas such as supporting industrialization, building infrastructure, ensuring that agriculture investment takes place, ensuring that there is investment in water, energy, education, and health.
Ramaphosa called for the voice of Africa and the Global South to be strengthened within multilateral institutions, including at the UN, while trumpeting that the era of African development had arrived.
Africa is least responsible for the climate damage that has been caused, and yet it bears the greatest burden. Centuries after the end of the slave trade, decades after the end of the colonial exploitation of Africa's resources, the people of our continent are once again bearing the cost of industrialization of the North and the development of the wealthy nations of the world. This is a price that the people of Africa are no longer prepared to pay. Many countries in the North count their assets in the mineral resources that are beneath the African soil. The wealth of Africa belongs to Africans. The mineral wealth that is beneath the soil of Africa must, in the end, accrue to Africans.
He again used the fora to call for the lifting of unilateral sanctions against Cuba and Zimbabwe, for greater efforts towards peace between Israel and Palestine, and for the rights of the people of Western Sahara towards self-determination to be realized. Sherman Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.